Hello, everyone. Welcome back to It's All Light. I'm your host, Natalie Baugh, and you're listening to a Chat with Nat episode. Happy October 1st, everyone. I can't believe it's October already. 2024 has been crazy and gone by pretty fast, as do probably most years. The older you get, time kind of speeds up, although there are days and weeks that do feel extra long. Anyways, we're going to just dive right into today's topic, which I'm going to do two parts. The first part, they're both from this conference I went to, and I just think they're amazing things that I wish everyone could have heard, and I'm going to just share a few great bits and pieces. So the first one is from Brad Wilcox, but not the typical Brad Wilcox that most people in Utah know. This Brad Wilcox is from, I actually don't know where he's from, but I heard him speak at the conference, and he's not a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but he's a professor and marriage family study guy. And he wrote a book called Get Married: Why Americans Must Defy the Elites, Forge Strong Families, and Save Civilization. So I'm going to just share bits and pieces from his lecture he gave. It was phenomenal, and on my Instagram story I'll post pictures of the graphics that he showed. There's a lot of statistics. So the first one I have was, when it comes to happiness, what beats education, work, and money? And the highest predictor on this scale, with 545%, was a very happy marriage. Just being married increases your happiness 151%. If you're very satisfied with work, it's about 145%. And then a higher income, 88%. College education, 64%. So out of 600%, very happy marriage was by far the highest. So happy marriages increases happiness. This Brad Wilcox talked about family over individualism and commitment over choice, tradition over the new. And then he talked about the 5 pillars of a family-first marriage. And he also presented in front of the 12 apostles of our church just his theories and stuff he preaches about. So his 5 pillars of a family-first marriage are communion, children, commitment, cash, and community. And he talked about communion, commitment, and community. So, too often, elites stress a me-first approach to marriage that privileges autonomy, freedom, and self-interest. So, when he says elites, he just is using that term to describe a group of people who are not family-first thinkers, who they're very much almost me, but also more of just more in the world, I guess. He had a good definition for them, but just a different way of thinking than him, but also just of the world, and his stats prove that family first thinking makes you happier. So communion, it was kind of about money, and he said share it, never have it separate, it's equal, what's yours is mine, what's mine is yours. He said that also increases happiness. And then he talked about commitment and marriage fidelity, and how there were different stories about how just a man who would have to travel a lot for work always talked about his wife, always was showing his commitment to his wife. A predictor of marital quality is commitment. Just your spouse is with you through thick and thin. And then community, the elite's view is that it's an obstacle. And then he shared 2 stories. One was a guy who, if he had seen something on the internet, he would be quickly to not go on or turn away from it. And then the wife in that story just was talking about how prayer has helped her marriage and overcome trials and let God heal her. So both of them in their own ways are focused on that commitment and being a good spouse and an engaged parent. And then there were stats about going to church together makes you happier. And then I took a picture of this quote. It says, "The family first values, virtues, and social networks supplied by religion typically strengthen and stabilize marriage." And then there's 3 steps with greater confidence and courage. Advance pro-family science, 2, better equip religious youth with knowledge and relationship skills derived from science. 3, launch a major public campaign on behalf of marriage to share the science with the general public. So he's very marriage advocate, as you can tell. And then I asked him, like, what are some things we should be looking for in a spouse? And he said, what are their virtues and vices? Are they an obstacle to marriage? He was like being funny is good, but what do they virtue and what are their vices? He said, go deeper and watch certain things, how they treat others, and then ask certain close family members and friends what they think, because he was like, love kind of is blind. And then he says, like, then someone else asked a question too of like, have prudence with friends of the opposite sex. You only pour out your heart to your husband once you're married, and like your spouse is your best friend, your most intimate relationship, and you make sure it's always that way. Anyways, there was so much more that I probably didn't document in my notes, but it was incredible, and you can check out his book on Amazon, Get Married by Brad Wilcox, and I think it's a great topic that a lot of us are struggling with sometimes. And we just had a lesson at church about dating, and I didn't take very many notes for that because I feel like I'm somewhat over dating, but I still, like, there's still a lot in me that I want to talk about with it. And so I'm going to get the notes from that guy who also has a podcast. I think his podcast is something The Dinner Table. I wrote it down. Let me hurry and find that real fast. It's Just Dinner is the podcast, if you're curious. And he has a lot of good insights. But I feel like that's more for how to get into dating and how to date, versus I'm trying to learn a lot more about like making the marriage decision, I guess, and receiving revelation. And it can go with like who to date. And there's a book called You're in Love, Now What? 20 Q&A to know how to make the marriage decision. And I need to finish it, but there's so many great chapters on just like distinguishing your hesitations, overcoming your fears, how you know it's the Holy Ghost prompting you, how to feel that something's right for yourself. Anyways, it's pretty incredible, and I encourage that as well. And then for today's episode, I want to end on another speaker from the conference, and it was Sister Bonnie H. Cordon, and she is the president of Southern Virginia University, and she just shared an amazing talk and so many amazing points. So she started off with a story of this painter who was doing a mural for the Rome, Italy temple, and how there were kids saying, look, this is the piece I did. And she got pictures of these kids saying, look, I did this sheep. Or this kid was like, look, I did this ear on this sheep. And just how cool it was to be a part of something greater. And then the artist was like, Sister Cordon, do you want to have a piece in this? And she was so nervous. She's like, I'm not an artist. I don't know how to paint. And he's like, but I am, and I'll guide you. I'm the master painter, and you can come add to the canvas and connect to the mural. Because once you've put a part in something, you connect with it. So he helped her, and she did a flower. And I just loved the metaphor with that Christ is the master, right? And even if we feel like we can't, he can, and he can help us and guide us. And as we do that, as we add to his work, we connect and become a part of it. She said, when you contribute to something, you know what's yours. And she talked about the laborer of the vineyard labored with them. Like Christ is with us. He's the master, and he's with us in all we do. Then she was talking about how Christ and God can tell stories about us and how much they know us so well and better than we know ourselves. And we can ask them to teach us about ourselves. And then she shared D&C 138 verse 56, a glimpse of our experience in the pre-earth life, like the first lessons of this world. She talked about our unique talents to help others and having complete confidence that we can trust the Lord. And with that, they understand us more than we understand ourselves, so trust them with all our heart. and give focus to them and have faith in God. And then she talked about helping people to come to know Christ. Like, we're not supposed to do this alone. We need people. She started off saying, we're here to collect friends, and I love that. And she shared just creating experiences with God in our lives. And she shared the quote from President Spencer W. Kimball, God does notice us and he watches over us, but it is usually through another person that he meets our needs. She shared the Good Samaritan and how we can have greater compassion toward others in our lives. And that reminds me of President Nelson's quote about like contention and peacemakers. And he's like, the best way and the quickest way to know someone is a disciple of Christ is how compassionate they are toward others. She then shared just like how we are becoming and what the Spirit can tell us how to live and become more like Christ and look for those miracles happening that I didn't recognize or want, but God gives them to us because he loves us. And then she said, say yes even when it doesn't make sense. Like, God needs us and he has miracles for us to do, and that can be helping just through helping others. She talked about being present wherever we are in that space. She said, be specific in your prayers and he, God, will be that specific in your life. The Lord will give you nudges and you won't miss those critical points if you follow them. So it's just being aware. Then she talked about the glory of God is intelligence. Never stop learning, keep learning. Ingenuity has no end. As long as you seek to have insight from the Lord, you'll receive it. Then there was some Q&A and they asked her what it's like to be in the church auxiliary and her experiences that prepared her for that in her life. And when she was the young woman president, just how cool it was to look at an organization and align with heaven and adding her voice and bringing an open heart. And then the last question was discerning the Holy Ghost, which I feel like always comes up, and I'm so grateful it does because it is something we are always trying to figure out. And she said, in your mind and your heart, an idea will come, and ideas come through our thoughts, and just act on our good thoughts. The Lord speaks our language. He knows how you interpret things. He knows what you listen to. He knows how your brain thinks, which is such a miracle and a blessing because I speak crazy. No, I don't speak crazy. My mind thinks crazy. But she's like, he will speak and then your name to you. So he'll speak Natalie to me. And she says, God's size. I'm going to preface this with a story. So a little kid is looking at an airplane in the sky with his dad, and he's like, Dad, how far away is that airplane? And it's pretty small, but you can see it. And he's like, oh, pretty far away. And then they're at the airport and pretty close to the plane. And he goes, how big is the plane now? Like, it's so much bigger. So she said, God's size in your life is how close you are to him. Pretty big up close. So the closer we are to God, the bigger he is in our lives. And just confidence in a God who knows us so well. Anyways, there's so many great things. I'll probably add in a part 2 when I maybe interview the It's Just Dinner podcast guy if you're curious for that. And yeah, that's everything, you guys. I can post some of these quotes and pictures from Brad Wilcox on my Instagram. Thank you for listening. I hope you have a great day. Please send me, send me a message on Instagram if you want to be interviewed on my podcast. I would love to chat with you. And I hope you discover what lights you up, what gives you light in your life, where are you focusing your energy, and what are you learning, and what are you loving learning. And with that, have a great day. See you later.